Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. The acclaimed new Oscar contender Women Talking opens in movie theaters everywhere today. I spoke to co-star Sheila McCarthy about working with the powerful ensemble cast of Rooney Mara, Claire Foy, Jessie Buckley, and Frances McDormand. Hey, Sheila McCarthy. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
We're here talking about your new movie. It's called Women Talking, written and directed by Sarah Polley, and it's going to be all the talk this coming award season as we head to the Oscars. I'm sure that's going to get a ton of nominations. So I'm so excited that we get to talk with you about this. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, all those clothes I have to wear.
I know, right? Well, because I want to tell people that, I mean, let's start there because you brought it up. I mean, it's when you first drop into this thing, you're not sure if it's a period piece or not. And as it unravels, I mean, this isn't really a spoiler because it's sort of in the IMDb, the premise. It's 2010, but I wanted to commend you and get your thoughts on that. Like, I think it's beautifully the way Sarah Polley does it. We sort of slowly reveal through dialogue and then eventually music and stuff like that. We sort of slowly realize that this is just a closed off colony, a religious sort of colony situation in relatively present day. Like, what were your thoughts about how that's rolled out?
It totally intentionally too, that Sarah, very, taking it from Miriam Toews' book, very much wanted it to be sort of like anywhere in the world, a sort of timelessness to it. And I think there's a bit of a shock value when all of a sudden you hear that Monkees tune and you go, what? This is like, this is almost now.
So Daydream Believer?
Yeah, I know. So it was very, very done deliberately. I mean, those clothes that we wore were so, I remember we were shooting one day and there was a Starbucks across the street and I went over in my my dress and my bonnet and my no makeup. And I thought, wow, she's probably the barista, they're going to say something. And she looked at me and she went, wow, cool dress. That looks so comfortable.
Now, did the barista at Starbucks, did they call out Ruth, Cheryl? They write that on the cup or no? We have to tell listeners that we were joking before we got on here. Yeah. My wife was like, you have to ask about her horses named Ruth and Cheryl. Talk about just how that sort of factors. It's a lighthearted thing, but they also represent, escape and finally leaving. So they play an important part.
They sure do. I mean, just to be clear, Ruth and Cheryl are my two horses that are, a very big part of Greta's life. It's how she travels. It's her car. It's her, and they are very important to her in terms of the decision in Women Talking of whether they're going to stay in the colony or leave the colony. She needs Ruth and Cheryl, but she also uses her beloved horses to sort of explain why she thinks we should leave, and the metaphors of what Ruth and Cheryl go through in their horse loving lives really works as a kind of balance and a bit of humor in the film that I think just takes the air out of the balloon for a minute when things get really tense. Greta's able to talk about Ruth and Cheryl and there's a bit of eye rolling, but it does diffuse a tense situation and further the conversation forward, I think.
It does, and like you're saying, it's a great it's great symbolism of when you're riding behind the horses, they can jerk back and forth and you might get a little dizzy, but if you focus your eyes off on the horizon, basically keep your eye on the bigger picture of where we need to go.
It's so true, right? You don't, you look ahead, don't look where you are. That helps you get through things.
Exactly. And we should say, I guess, so this is 8 women in sort of an isolated, I guess it's a Mennonite colony, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's set the stage. So we've talked, we've joked a lot about the horses and stuff, but it is really,
let's go back.
Really, really heavy subject matter. So I want you to sort of set this, and I don't know how much, on your press tours you want to reveal about the plot and all that, but give us a basic premise of sort
of and what I think, first of all, this film that you're seeing is based on a book called Women Talking by Miriam Toews. It is an act of female imagination. It is based in a true story of a Mennonite colony in Bolivia in and around 2008, where several women finally communicated to their elders that they were being sexually abused, raped in the middle of the night, horse tranquilized, raped, and no one was talking about it. They finally did. The men were arrested by the Bolivian government, and they are still incarcerated in Bolivia. Nine men. So that's the real story. And just to also talk about the horror of this, it's not just the women, it's the men, and the men were also horse tranquilized, and their children and their grandchildren. So it's an incredibly horrific situation. And Miriam took that truth and turned it into a fable, really, of what would happen if women could have a vote for the very first time in their lives. And these women do not read or write, but they could vote by making a black X about what they want to do. And they have three choices: stay, do nothing, stay and fight, leave the colony. And so that's really, in a nutshell, what the movie is about. It's about making decisions and talking them through, and having the conversation for the very first time.
Yes, and I love that those are the three choices are. I love that that's even been woven in the marketing materials. It lays out stay in,
Yep.
what is it?
Yep.
Stay in or do nothing, stay and fight, or leave.
Yep.
You watch them put X's right from the very beginning of the movie, so we know that's what we're in for. And we should tell everybody that it is just like the title of the book and the movie suggests, it is women talking. It's that's going to be the most of the movie. It's a dialogue heavy movie, but I wanted to commend Sarah Polley, and I'm sure some of the dialogue comes from the book too, but I just want to commend the whole way the script rolls out of it is, it's not, quote, a lot of stuff happening, to use a lame term, but you were so gripped the whole time because as these women debate which of these three options they should do, they all make compelling arguments. And talk about how you think that Sarah Polley was able to do that, to create such a gripping thing with just dialogue.
Yeah, well, and that was our concern. We had a 2-week rehearsal period with the 8 of us and Ben, our token man, and that was a concern because it rolls out like theater, and it could be a play. And what we couldn't possibly have realized until we saw the epicness of the film and the landscape of the film and the music of the film is that Sarah, just when the conversation is going, where can this go? She cuts away to the most beautiful and sometimes horrific visuals in the film that I think sort of keep it less of a piece of theater and more just a huge big world of these women, the outside world, the children in the fields, the boots of the men. And she very deliberately does not show the actual it's the aftermath of the abusive scenes. It's the before and the after, which I think is a really compelling way to, and an often more moving way to show those crimes. So that we did have that concern, but I think she's woven such an incredible mosaic of sort of dialogue into scenes, into scenery, into music, into that the tension. I equate this movie like doing one long hymn. We were just one long hymn with other things woven into it. So I think that was Sarah Polley. And her editor, Chris Donaldson, who really, mastered that for sure.
Oh yeah, you're sort of referring to sort of the flashbacks. You'll see the women, or maybe the aftermath, or maybe some shots of blood, or in your case, some teeth, and some horrific images falling. But you never quite see the villains, almost
No.
like, like the great
Yeah.
movie. I don't want to say, like a blockbuster like Jaws, but you know what I mean? It's the same
Mm,
idea that it's scarier and all more powerful. And also, why are we even going to give them the time of day in this movie?
yeah.
The men
Yep.
don't deserve, well, not Ben Weishaw's character, but he's one of the good guys, but the bad
Yeah.
men of the colony.
Mhm,
Why
mhm.
they don't get screen time in this. You might see them far in the distance,
Yep.
maybe,
Yep.
or off screen or a boot, like you're saying, whatever,
Yep.
but you don't see their faces. So talk
It's
about
more
why
it's
that was
more
powerful.
well, it's more menacing that way too,
Mhm.
because of course, then because it is an act of female imagination, then the audiences can also imagine what those scenes were. And what Sarah wanted to communicate, and Miriam too, from her book, was the effect it has on us, not on them. It's
Mhm.
the effect that it has on us, and what are we going to do about it? And it's about the conversation, and it's about moving forward.
Mhm.
So, it's the philosophy of the film is that these are, for me in my life, it's always been, when you're in a situation that you cannot stay, then you must leave.
Right.
And it's not always that you want to leave, but that you can't possibly stay. And by not showing the crimes, I think, yeah, it's a stronger argument.
I think so too. And also
Mhm.
the choice of even the way that Sarah Polley shoots it visually, it's not, we're not watching some big Technicolor through strip
Mhm.
technical, and it is like a
Mhm.
muted palette, almost
Mhm.
I don't want to say monochromatic, but almost like a sepia tone kind of an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. She
What
just
was
drenched it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
talk about how that was sort of, I guess
Mhm.
well, what do you think? I mean, to me, I think I take it as sort of that sort of captures their sort of existence, their trapped,
Well, I
colorless existence.
absolutely, and again, it goes along with the sort of timelessness of the theme, that it's
Right.
almost like, a photograph from a daguerreotype from 100 years ago, and yet it's not. I think it also, with the drenched sort of sepia tone taupe colors in it, it allows our voices to be heard
Mhm.
more. There's less distraction.
Right.
It's about the conversation.
And so many of those conversations are just beautiful monologues. Like my wife and I were just watching the screener of it last night, and we were, she remarked multiple times throughout the movie. We're sitting there on the couch, and she goes, "Man, there's just some zingers in this movie." And she goes, "I bet you this was based on a book." Of course, it was. So, but
Absolutely.
I want you to sort of settle a debate then of are some of those how much of that was in the actual book, or a lot of those lines Sarah
It's
Polley.
Sarah took a lot. I would love to see the copy of the book right now, because I think that she probably, it's just, she took tons from the book.
Sure.
It was like a reverent screenplay for sure. But then she screened it for groups of Mennonite women. She cobbled together lines from other people. The line, "You can't stay, so you must leave," is something I said to her. Like
Oh,
she
so you brought that to the table.
I did. I didn't get to
Nice.
say it though, but yes. And so she's incredibly collaborative, and gives credit to everyone for lines that were not from the book or from her imagination. She yeah, so just I'm trying to remember, there was the line about um tolerating something is not an act of forgiveness, and that came from, I think, a man on set. Like
Oh, wow.
she listened and took yeah. um and so when we started rehearsing, the script was really in stone, and a lot of what we shot is voiceover. And I remember I said, "Oh, I got like monologues of stuff that was in voiceover." She said, and Sarah said, "No, we'll be shooting that. We'll be doing that." And I'm like, "Oh, really? We will be." So we were doing 11-page scenes for 2 or 3 days.
Mm.
We did 120 takes, because the cameras had to roll around, 9 of us, one
Yeah.
at a time. And everybody brought their A game every single time. It was like being at the Olympics, I'm telling you right now.
Well,
It
speaking, you
was.
have the proverbial, you have to follow your metaphor, a proverbial, Olympic athlete all-star cast with you. I mean, man, dish on some of, remind our
Oh,
listeners, so I can use a
wow.
soundbite if you say it, their names, but remind us some of the heavy hitters here. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna
No.
see some Oscar nominations with these folks.
Well, yes. I mean, Claire Foy. I mean, there we were the first day, and the Queen from The Crown is washing my feet. I mean, that's a surreal thing to have. Wow. Okay. You know, Ben Whishaw, Judith Ivey, won a million Tony Awards. Rooney Mara. Oh my goodness, just angelic. Jessie Buckley, who I love from Ireland, just nominated last year for her movie with Olivia Colman. It was just a heavy hitters. And then, Michelle McLeod and David Fox. And, it was just
we haven't even mentioned Frances McDormand.
Oh my God. How could I
forget? A little smaller role, but
then yeah.
But also produced it too, I think.
Oh yeah. When my agent told me who was in the cast, I went, shut up. What? So I really fangirled for the first couple of weeks. And then I thought, I've got to get over this. I've just, it's okay. I've just really got to get over this. And because we were together every day, all day for months at a time, which is something you don't usually get when you're making a movie. You pop in, you roll out for 3 weeks, and then you come and do another day with 3 lines, whatever. This was all day, every day. So, and they also put us in a great big room off set. So we were all together with our partitions, and it was COVID. So we were very, it was like we were, 12, you could say 12 angry men. We were, 9 angry people making this movie. And, that the kind of COVID restrictions sort of went with the whole idea of this, repressed group of people, so that was really great, that that helped us all get very used to each other. And we actually had a lot of fun making this movie too. I'm going to say, like, it's a really heavy subject, but we laughed a lot. You have to. It's that fine line between, laughing and crying.
They even say in the movie, there's a line, sometimes you laugh to keep from crying or whatever.
That's right. Absolutely.
And it's just beautiful. It's just beautifully done. The writing and even the visual, even the shots of, just the empty houses, like the table and the light coming through the window or the barn. It's almost like these women, and you can sort of see their struggle of why they might not want to leave, because all the horrors going around. And at one point they say, maybe we just make the men leave and we stay because this is our home. You can see their love of their surroundings too, just in those beautiful visuals.
What I love about that too is just every single thing is used. Like, they're not allowed art on the walls, so they have calendars everywhere with cheesy pictures. They have landscapes. And our clothes, like Akita Alfred, who designed our clothes, every single little bit of thread is something that comes from another generation. It comes from a grandmother, or it's just the impeccable detail in the film, which you have to see it more than once to really get, to me, is just, I love that, Oh,
absolutely. And do we, I know you don't want to talk Oscar predictions, but I want to talk in terms of general terms, because we had Chloe Zhao win Best Director for Nomadland. We had Jane Campion win last year for Power of the Dog. And, who knows if Sarah Polley will get nominated? I think she should, or win for Women Talking. But whether she wins or not, we had Greta Gerwig a couple years ago with Lady Bird. Like, I'm so heartened that we're seeing this trend, of these female directors finally getting to tell their stories and talk about, speak about this movie in sort of those terms. That we've had male gaze movies, and some of them are great over the years, but we need some female gaze movies now.
Well, I hope, when I think about the younger girls on the set, their first film, I thought I hope at some point in their careers we won't even have to have this conversation, that it will just be a film by great filmmakers, genderless, but we're not there yet. And I think this movie proves that. When you see us at the film festivals and there's 20 women on stage, that's a powerful optic to look at.
Speaks for itself.
It's just speaks for itself. And I'm so proud to be part of this film. And I think that, yes, I think Sarah deserves every single Oscar that there is on the planet for this creation of hers. And, you don't, we talk about all, and she goes, I don't want to jinx it. I've been there before. And I just go, yes. And just in terms of, if that happens, then more people see the movie. Do you know what I mean? The awareness grows. Doing radio shows like yours helps, but the Oscar is like, the platform of that is enormous. So I really hope that those Academy members are feeling good about this movie. We've already been given the Robert Altman Award at the Spirit Awards, so that's a given, and that's huge. you know,
Oh yeah,
the
well,
awareness.
Altman, yeah. I mean, talk about microphones or mic'd up a bunch of cast members all at once. That was
Yeah,
Altman's thing, man.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, if that'd be cool. And so there could be, SAG Best Ensemble. There's lots of
Yeah.
different sort of categories that are good for these big casts. But yes,
Mhm.
the Oscar would be great. Let's start awarding Sarah Polley's and the Kelly
Okay,
Reicherts and Ava
you're on.
DuVernay's. Like, let's get that going in the next couple years.
Yes, yes.
But anyway, but yes, I mean, so you were speaking of, you just mentioned the phrase and it sparked something. You mentioned hopefully we won't talk about this. It'll be genderless or whatever. And there is a nice little shout out in the role. I can't remember the character's name. Is it
Melvin.
Melvin.
Yes.
Talk about how it was important to sort of break down the gender stereotypes with that role. And also it's also not quote man hating. There's hope for the boys too. They say,
Oh,
you know what, if
absolutely.
15-year-olds and younger, they debate, and you know what, maybe there is a little hope that they can be taught.
Absolutely. And again, that is the word hope. Miriam Toews wrote that character of Nettie, who now wants to be identified as Melvin, in the book. And, that just, that widens the net of that these abuses happen not just to women, they happen to everybody. And I think that is really important to remember. And also you've got a character like Ona, played by Rooney, who has not interested in marrying.
Right.
There's, it's a diverse group of us, and the age is diverse. You've got the young ones, you've got the elders like Judy and me and myself. So that the horrors happen to everybody. And I think that conversation is really important about the film too. People have come up to me after seeing the movie and they're very moved by it. There was a woman who works in a women's shelter who just really couldn't talk. And I just said, this movie is about people talking to people and starting a conversation so change can happen. And I think that, no one's alone. And, not just women, everybody. And that's my hope. That's my takeaway from the movie, that, you're not alone. And as soon as you do communicate to somebody, things change. And I love that, in my life, that's been the case, when you don't keep stuff bottled up. And that,
right.
That's a big theme in the movie.
Absolutely. It's not bottling it up. And I do want people to know that yes, it is a heavy subject, but in the end there is hope for these women who have survived in this trauma, and they're going to move on and hopefully we're going to hopefully have a brighter future, and also hope for hopefully the younger generation of men, that young boys too, maybe they it's so much is children are a blank slate. I think they even say something similar in the movie, and it's what so much is what we're taught in media and society. Absolutely. And from the patriarchal society. We still haven't had a woman president. So much is ingrained in young boys and girls.
We're ingrained too, like in the film. Like I think there's dialogue about we are the ones too who have, like, I've enabled this abuse with my daughters in the movie, and it's a huge awakening for my character Greta to say, I am sorry. I'm sorry. Like I need to say I'm sorry, and I need to say it more than once. That's probably because I'm a Canadian, but because we apologize a lot. But I, that's a big moment that we have been wearing those old records. We've been playing those, and it's it's a learning curve for us too, not just men.
Right. Well, it does, and with hope and also, I mean, I know there's religious themes too. I think you guys are your filmmakers are very nuanced in the way you even handle the religious aspect too. It's not, whether people are, you could have someone that's devout or atheist watch this thing, and no one's you're not offending people. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Because that's love, pacifism, listening, tolerance and patience. I think that is, the movie unfolds and we're all being so patient. We think we've only got 48 hours to make this decision. And yet there's still this feeling of, we are going to take our time here. maybe that's a female thing. I don't know.
Well, we have taken our time with this interview.
Okay.
We're almost a half hour into that. That's my best segue. But I know you probably have other ones, and you're really generous with your time. Before we run, let's talk about you. You mentioned you're a Canadian. Remind our listeners, remind our life story in 2 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God.
But remind us where you grew up and how you got into acting.
Well, I grew up in Toronto, but I've done the Die Hard 2 and The Day After Tomorrow.
Sure,
I was in Umbrella. I'll just give you my resume, Umbrella Academy. And I just finished doing a movie with my daughter, who directed me a movie called Civil. So, I go back and forth, but Canada's my home, and I'm proud to say that. And, but I love coming to your country and having this movie explode in my face. It's just so much fun for me. I had it 30 years ago with a movie called I've Heard the Mermaid Singing that went around the world, and now Women Talking is going to go around the world. And it's an incredible moment for me, and to be part of this. It's just really awesome.
Yeah, I've heard The Mermaid Singing was, I guess, what people would say your breakthrough film role in terms of getting, I guess did you win a Genie Award, I think, for that? Yeah. But there's so many. And I know you mentioned, what was it like doing some, Women Talking is clearly more of like a, Oscar contender, I don't want to call it art house, but you know what I mean? More of like an indie variety.
Yeah.
Whereas, what's it like doing that compared to like, say, you've done Die Hard 2 and The Day After Tomorrow. These are like these big blockbusters, what's it like? Is it cool to be able to do, what do they say? One for the art, one for the money or whatever?
Yeah. Oh, it's, every experience is so different, but I'm here to say Jake Gyllenhaal is just the greatest thing on the planet. So working with him was just, beautiful.
A young Jake Gyllenhaal in Day After Tomorrow.
Young Jake Gyllenhaal, yes. Oh my goodness, yes. He's fantastic. You're just a small, cog in a great big wheel when you do those movies. But it's always the people you're with, and connecting, and understanding your place in a movie sort of is part of my job. So I understand that.
Yeah. And do you have younger viewers that maybe didn't even see Day After Tomorrow? Because to me that seems recent, but in the big grand scheme, that's almost 20 years old now. Do you have young people come up on the street and say, I remember you from Umbrella Academy?
Oh, they love it. Well, that little love story was so sweet in Umbrella Academy because it was so. I said to the producers, but I'm 30 years older than my boyfriend, and they went, we don't care. It's good. It's a nice love story. We don't care. That was working with Mary J. Blige. Are you kidding? It was just such a trip, and she was wonderful. The people on that show it was like being part of a low budget little indie movie. Like everybody was so cool and so great. Because I do a lot of indie projects in Canada, and you with 20-year-olds, and that's super fun for me. But honestly, I teach college courses too, and I would say if you can think of anything else to do in your life, feel free to do that, because it's really hard.
It'll be a little easier of a life.
Yeah. Please feel free to become a doctor, a lawyer, because, it's a tough old road, being an actor. And, I'm 66 now and still doing it. And it's a joy. Like I'm kind of going, wow. So I understand this moment very clearly, that it comes and it goes, and it's best just to go for the ride and have a blast with it.
Right. Well, you tell them to be a doctor, but you were in The Good Doctor and Orphan Black.
Yes, I was.
So many other things. We'll see you pop up in all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But I really do think, thanks to Women Talking, you and the incredible cast around you as well, as a unit together, I think we're going to be seeing all of you on different award stages coming up for ensemble.
I just have to get really glamorous, because when people see the movie, they go, "Oh my God." You just go, "Oh my God."
It's acting, it's wardrobe, but
I know, and it's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
Characters, actors, it's all good.
Exactly.
But, I do have to put the lashes and the gowns on for the next while.
Yeah, hopefully those red carpets. I think they'll be going for this movie. So I guess sort of in the final seconds, what do you want the takeaway? If our listeners are watching this and they say, oh, maybe I should watch that, or maybe if there's maybe I'll put it this way: if there's some listeners that maybe only have been going to superhero movies and stuff, and clearly they're not sure, should I take a chance on this? Explain like what you want them. Why should they come? Why is this a worthwhile for their human heart, their spirit? Like this is is the type of movie that can grow and change us.
I think you're answering it. I think because we're in this fast world, I just, put down your phone and, everything happens. Nobody has an attention span. This movie demands a certain patience to sit and watch it, but get your popcorn, watch it, because the payoff at the end, the joy at the end, not to give it all away, but it is, I think it's worth it. And I think that it provokes conversations. I know it's provoking conversations that are super important to have right now in this political climate that you guys are in. And, believe me, we're in Canada too, of Roe versus Wade and, just the whole, everything. So I think that if nothing else, go see this movie to start a conversation. It's worth it.
Absolutely. It is, you're watching this, similar to the way that Animal Farm was you know what I mean? And it's talking about a big, allegory for communism or whatever. Like there's a bit of a, you're seeing a microcosm of this based on a true story, but it also, the whole time you're talking, it's relating to society in general, how women can change society at large. So it's good. It's powerful filmmaking. So, Sheila McCarthy, thank you so much for doing this. Again, it's Women Talking. It's coming in theaters. Yep. Thank you so much for doing this. This is great.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Give our best to the horses.
I got to go feed them now.
Bye, Cheryl and Ruth. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.